So who here thinks that they're a leader? Okay, I see a few hands up. But it's very interesting because when I ask this question, people are so often so hesitant to put their hands up. I know me 2 years ago when I just started university, I definitely wouldn't have put my hands up. I would have just thought, oh, I've never really led a team. I don't have any experience. Like, I'm just a university student or I'm just a normal worker. Like, who can I possibly lead? Who can I influence? We have defined leadership as something that is beyond our reach. When I say leadership, you might be thinking people with suits, people who command other people who's sitting in the nice offices telling other people what to do, who has the power, the charisma, the control. But is that what leadership actually is? Is that all there is to leadership? We have made it so out of our reach. But leadership, in its core, is about influence. Leadership is about impact. And you don't need any positions, any titles, any roles to be a leader. It doesn't have to be a moment in stage where you give great speeches or you have people listening to you. You have 1,000 of audiences looking at you to be a leader. It can be the simple, everyday moments in life where you can lead. And today I'm going to share with you a little bit about my experience and how we can all see ourselves as leaders in everyday life. So I have a friend who's from Brazil. He was born there and he grew up his whole entire life in Brazil. So when he came to New Zealand, naturally, he didn't really know any culture outside of his own. So when we were hanging out with friends in a group, it was sometimes quite obvious that he didn't know what we was talking about. Like he wouldn't understand the memes or the slangs that we used or even the cultural context, the jokes. So when I see that, I just thought, that will suck to be in that position. I just went up to him and just explained about the jokes we were using, or sometimes even the food that we were eating, because he was so unfamiliar with it. And after doing that a couple of times, he came up to me and he handed me a note. I read it and it said, "Your kindness and empathy inspires me." And I was so stunned. I had that instinct to go, "Oh, that's not me. That's not me. Like I'm not inspiring. Like I wouldn't describe my actions as inspiring." But instead of doing that, like I know other people will as well, I held myself back. I didn't deflect. I just reflected. Because to me, that action was just a small action. Like it was nothing sort of inspiring. But for him, it helped him a great deal. Because otherwise, he would have felt a bit out of the loop. He would have felt out of the context, felt left out. So that small action helped someone to feel more included. And that is an example of how you can be like a leader in everyday life. It doesn't need a huge amount of pre-planned effort, planning, or even a grand gesture. It's just talking to a friend. That can also be a form of leadership. And sometimes it's not about even helping people, but it's just about being honest to other people about your weaknesses and owning it. Being vulnerable to other people and showing how you've struggled can also be part of leadership in everyday life. Because sometimes people don't understand how hard it is to just be vulnerable, how much courage it takes to be vulnerable in front of someone, to show your weaknesses, your struggles. Because you're putting yourself out there, you're putting your sore point out there, and you're opening yourself up to the chance of being rejected, to the chance of being laughed at. So when someone opens up to them, to other person, it really is a show of leadership. Because you're taking that courage, taking the chance to be vulnerable. You're not afraid of your weaknesses. I have an experience. I have a close friend, and we were just talking. And one day she just decided to open up to me more about her struggles, about how she had struggled very much mentally in the past, which even affected her physically. And honestly, I never would have known if she hadn't told me. She was just such a cheerful person. And sometimes people are often afraid to be thought of weak when they show their weaknesses, when they show their vulnerable side. But from a listener's perspective, I have never thought of my friend as stronger than she is at that moment. Because she was able to own it up. And she created that safe space for her to say out her points, her weaknesses, and for me to be able to trust her and help her with it as well. And sometimes that's all it takes to be a leader in your everyday life, just to be honest, just to be yourself and let yourself be weak. And another way that we can possibly be a leader in everyday life is by standing up, speaking up, and standing up against what is wrong. Have you ever had that moment when you're just in a dining table, just conversing with friends or family, eating, and then someone just had to make an inappropriate joke or an inappropriate comment where everyone just goes awkward and no one knows what to do? So in that moment, if you choose to be a leader, you can just stand up and be like, man, that's not too cool. Let's not do that again. And then just move on to the next topic. It is a very small action. But when you're doing that, you're taking the chance of making the mood uncomfortable, of having them see you as annoying. And I think when you take that step, it is being courageous, and that is being a leader. So I could talk so much more about ways you can be a leader in everyday life, but once you start understanding that even these small actions is a meaningful action, you start seeing everyone around you as leaders, and even yourself. And I think that's such an empowering perspective to have, that you and the people around you are all leaders. There's a leadership coach called Drew Dudley, and he does a lot of TED Talks, which I love. And he calls this type of leadership everyday leadership. And in one of his TED Talks, he talks about a lollipop moment, where basically he told a guy to give a lollipop to the girl standing next to him. And he did. But unbeknown to him, that girl was actually on her first day at university. She was so anxious. She was so nervous. She even considered quitting university. But because of that small action, where the guy gave her the lollipop, she felt she had the power to continue with university. They were even married, by the way. So that was an additional point. But the interesting thing is, Drew did not remember doing that at all. He tried remembering, but he couldn't. And that story reminds us that leadership is found in the everyday moments in life. And sometimes you don't even realize that you're doing it. Sometimes it's such a small action that you don't even remember you did it. And that is the power that we all carry with us. And there's also a research by James Fowler and also Nicholas Kaczynski about how prosocial behavior, they are a ripple. So when you do something kind, something courageous, and another person sees it, they're more likely to imitate that behavior to the people around them. And this effect stands up to 3 degrees of separation. So isn't that quite interesting to think that something small that you do to a friend, just a kind gesture or a courageous action, can extend to beyond that, to people you don't even know. So if there's one thing that I want you to take out of this talk, is that you have the power. You have the power to be a leader. One action, one moment, one interaction, or even one word is all that it takes. You might not realize it, but you have done something. You have become a leader. And before you think like, but I've never really done it. No one has ever said to me that I've done something impactful, so I don't think I have. Let's just step back for a bit and think. Have you ever told someone that their small action actually means a lot? How many of those small actions that you want to say thank you for, you actually told them about? And if we ourselves don't even say it to other people, how can we expect other people to do the same for us? So go out there and tell the people around you how much you appreciate what they've done for you. Go out there and be a leader. Thank you.